I'm Mikey. So just grab yourself a drink and come and sit down. Any of those, any of the above, up to you. Tell us your name, first of all.
I'm Gonzo.
Gonzo, welcome. We haven't actually, I'm just explaining. Oh, we've got Teddy online. Hello, Teddy. Can you put your camera on, Teddy? Is that all right? And give us a sound check as well.
Okay, how's that?
That's pretty good, yeah. Oh, hang on a second. I've actually now, I've just got to just once. That is really weird hearing your own voice. There we go. No, that's me because I'm streaming to this site. So there we go. I've got rid of myself in a weird time loop. We've just started, Teddy. So Teddy, we've got Shahid, we've got Archie, we've got Gonzo, we've got Margot, and I'm Mikey. We haven't got a theme. I have mentioned that tonight was kind of, the way Talkaoke works, it really goes in any direction we want it to, but there is an Aberfeldy love kind of element. Shahid.
So I think one of the ideas today was to talk about love, love-a-thon, and hello, how are you? And all I can say is I don't believe in love.
You don't believe in love? What?
My proposition.
That's
my proposition.
Hang on. That's a bit of a.
I do not believe.
What do you mean? Can you have to say a bit more?
Well, okay, but it's quite heavy,
Yeah.
so I don't know whether to start off with that.
Okay, we've got some new faces here. So welcome to Talkaoke. We've just kicked off. I should say that it's up to you really where this conversation goes. We've got no agenda at all, or although, as I was saying, tonight has got a bit of a kind of love theme. We have got Gonzo, we've got Archie, we've got Shahid. Tell us your name.
My name is Mohammed Ahmedullah.
Can I just call you Mohammed?
It's up to you. I'm flexible.
Okay, that's good. That's what I like to hear. Oops, no, I meant. And who have we got in the? Hussein and Abid. Ahmed. Okay. So we've just kicked off. Shahid's dropped the big bombshell. He doesn't believe in love. By the way, help yourself to drinks if you want any drinks or snacks. They're all there for you. Grab the mic. Grab the mic.
It doesn't exist, or you don't believe it exists?
Yeah, we need to know a bit more.
That's a good question, actually. And I guess I think possibly it exists out there, but maybe it's just not for me. But at the same time, I'd extend that further to say, I mean, as some philosophers have said, love is a kind of madness, which I'm not altogether 100% against that idea. It's possibly so. I did read when I was a long time ago. I read a book by a writer called Stendhal, who wrote a book on love, and this is a book of aphorisms, lots of statements about the nature of love, and even there, though he agreed that love overcomes people and infatuates them and so on, he sort of thought of it as, he called it crystallizing, there's a different processes by which a person gradually falls in love, and in my relationships, I've had some sort of distant admiration of people, and that has been possibly kind of love. My real relationship has been a marriage, and that was quite a long, it's about 8 to 10 years.
When did you drop the bombshell? That you don't believe in love? At the beginning or at the end?
At the end of the month, because the proof of the pudding. I was married for say 10 years, and I mean, I feel that's that for me that's proven the. I've tested. I've did my more than a big toe in the water, and it's hot water. So
okay. All right. Well, we've got a new face at the table as well. So we've got Mohammed. We have got Ahmed, and what was it again? Hussein. That's right. And we've got Gonzo. We've got Archie. I think I mentioned Shahid. I'm Mikey. Tell us your name.
Ian.
And there's Margot. I did that in a very unsystematic way that time. I don't know why. Normally I just go around in a circle. Anyway, the main point is, and we've got Teddy online. Hello, Teddy.
Hello.
Hello. Are you able to show a show of hands? Who here does believe in love? Have a show of hands. Oh, okay, paradoxical. Okay, right. Okay, Mohammed.
It's not only a question of belief, right?
Yeah.
But it's evidently true that love exists.
Yeah.
And also, love, like food and other things. There are many different types of love. Not only one type. And sometimes, like food, you something a lot, then you don't eat anymore.
Yeah.
So also you can fall out of love,
Yeah.
right?
That-
But I think what love is,
Yeah.
people have different levels and intensity.
Yeah.
Right? So I know people, they love each other and they live together, they're happy. Other people fall out.
Yeah.
Some are very intense, right? So it's a fact. I don't know what love is.
There's a
love
lot.
exists.
Yeah, there's like you're saying, Mohammed, love definitely exists. You can't argue that it doesn't exist. What it is, maybe, and I'm picking up on as well. There's a kind of buffet idea. There's a big selection of different types of love. There's all different types of. I mean, is there a kind of like food you mentioned as an analogy? Are there different types of love in different cultures, as there are different foods?
Yeah, I think
I'll come to you in a second. So,
I personally think all human beings
yeah.
Have something in common, right? Yeah, and they are there because of who they are. Their DNA, their overall kind of makeup, right?
Yeah.
But then we also differ in our DNA, based on our history and so on. But then the DNA interacts with culture, isn't it?
Yeah.
Say, for example, when I was growing up,
Yeah.
most of my ideas of love came from Indian films and
Right.
Indian songs,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
I haven't watched Indian films since 1981.
Yeah.
You know
So does
what I
that
mean?
give you a sense? There's a lot of kind of dancing and singing in
Yes,
your
singing was part of it,
yeah.
right? But the idea of what love is, how
Yeah.
you want to kill yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you don't get the
Yeah.
person they want, right? Yeah. But I think nowadays very few people want to kill themselves.
Yeah.
But at one time, because of the influence of Indian films, if I don't get her,
Yeah.
I might as well die.
So actually, it's actually quite a sort of deep influence. We're saying you're gonna grab the mic. Yeah. Well,
It's
come
kind of
closer.
loud enough, I
Yeah.
think. It's just
Yeah.
people talk about it, but they haven't defined what it is. How can you believe in something or know
But is
exists or
it
no
really
if you
possible?
don't define it?
Is it possible to define this?
Well, I'm
when
asking them.
when
It's a
there's
question.
so many
They've said they believe he doesn't
Yeah.
believe in it, but then you must know what it is to not believe in it. Same with him. If he says it does exist, then he must know what it is.
I mean, have you got
Yes.
any thoughts about how to? You're going to put the pressure on Mohammed. Well, I'm going to open it up to the rest of the people on this side.
Fair question, though, isn't it?
yeah,
They
what-
said they make different comments, but they don't define it.
Well, I'm going to stand up for Mohammed because Mohammed said that it can be all sorts of different things. It's not just one thing. Teddy, did you want to say something online?
Sure, I can talk about more community love. I'm not sure I want to talk about some of the other love that might be
Community love.
banding around.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like agape, the
What's
kind
agape?
agape is like that. I think it's like a kind of community love, right? It's more
Yeah.
like brotherly. It's like love
Yeah.
for community.
I just
Yeah,
wonder
like kin.
if there are drinks and snacks on this table which are given out of that spirit of agape
Yeah,
community love. So
exactly.
if anyone
Yeah.
wants a drink, just go over there and grab one. You're all welcome to have one. It includes you, Ian. But yeah, Margot, you want to say?
I just wanted to offer up just a different offer there.
Yeah.
I'd like to offer up services to kind of take on people's love dilemmas. If you've got any love dilemmas, I'll be very happy to kind of use my third eye to
Yeah.
give a read and advice.
I mean, do you need to define love to be able to talk about it?
No.
You say no as well?
No, not at all. It's not a chemical. If it was a chemical, we would have discovered it by now, and somebody would be making £1 million out of it.
Mm.
But no, it's a feeling, it's a faith, it's willing to open yourself up to other people without fear of being rejected. Although sometimes you are rejected, and I'm a happily married man now, but I've met Mrs. Wright a few times before I met the Mrs. Wright, and it didn't work out because circumstances change. People grow.
Yep.
And they mature or they don't mature, and it's like two cars going in the same direction. They may get closer, then fate may take them apart. It's a mixture, but it's not a chemical.
Okay,
Can't
so
define it as
you're happy with it to be a bit more loose I want to come back over to this side of the table. Do we need to define this? And do you need to define it to be able to believe in something?
I mean, passion, maybe we can use as like a kind of base emotion, but also, I guess, another more prosaic way of talking about it is saying it's like it's liking somebody, but to the extent that you really want to live your life with them. I like the analogy that, sorry, didn't get you catch your name, Ian, the analogy that Ian brought up of two cars coming together and then they start going and then they start traveling in the same direction. So at first, you're apart, but then you discover each other and then you start your journey, you start your life together. The journey about so. But
I mean, is love more than just heavy liking?
Heavy liking. It's, okay.
Let me just bring this.
I just wanted to kind of sketch out like where we start, where we begin to experience love first. Like we are born, and then there's this mother who's providing everything, and there might like it might be viewed as a parental love. And there's this bond, and then you kind of grow a little bit more, and then you learn about kind of the stereotypes of love, and then it depends like how you interpret love, and you might, and then you most definitely experience romantic love at some point in your life, which is, again, it's a trap.
Hang on. We'll come to you in a second, Shahid, but Hussein did have his hand up first.
Yeah, anyway, I'm going to try and get heavy now with some. Anyway, two aspects I want to put on the table, if you want to say that, is culturally and linguistically. Different languages have several words for this, what we call love. Even contemporary languages, let alone languages like Sanskrit. Sanskrit has about 100 words. And it's interesting to look at them. And also, historically, what we're talking about love is romantic love. And this is quite novel. It's only 200 years old as a concept.
So what was going on before then? What about
most people
Romeo
got
and
married
Juliet?
because of necessity of kind of doing the farming, kind of arranging royalty, getting kind of political alliances. Is very practical, economical. Then the fantasy of you having free choice in the 18th century, 19th century in particular, a kind of very middle class bourgeois concept came to be. And that's still novel for lots of parts of the world. People get married practically because they have to just survive economically and produce on the land. I mean, so that's changed over the last 200 years.
I mean, is that progress to move to a more kind of romantic?
Well, it's to do with freedom. It's to do with individualism. It's to do with the individual makes the choice. Well, so we think or imagine that I'm choosing the person to be with, not for economic reasons, some idealistic idea about what they are, who they are, and who I am.
So it's more of a Okay. I mean, is it moving on to have this?
I don't fully agree with Hussein.
Okay. Well, that's excellent. Yes, that's what love's all about, really.
Hussein is right that there are different words for love. For example, we say we love your mother, father. They say they love you. Earlier time, I don't believe there was a single word for love in my own language. Right?
What language is that?
Bangla, Bengali, right?
Okay.
Right. Obviously, they invented one, right? To create one similar to the English love.
Right.
Right.
So you're saying that actually it was an importation of a.
I would say,
British
the modern idea of love, right? I think it's the European. It's wherever it came from, but it spread across the world. But people still in the past, since humanity began, people are falling in love. The girls see a boy, boys see a girl. They like each other. Or sometimes one like the other doesn't like. But social customs, obviously, decided how that might play out. How far that situation, right? The other thing, like the word, there's one word called prem.
Say that again.
Prem. Yeah, in the Indian subcontinent, especially northern part of India, right? It means love, right? But you never say you prem with your mother or father,
right?
Or your sister. That's like romantic love,
right? Okay.
You know what I mean? Right?
Yeah.
Or affection, and the English Western word love
Yeah.
It's a completely different.
What word is that?
It's like care, sneho, all this kind of thing,
Right.
right? But now, people adopting Western thing. You will get children say, "I love you, mom." Even in Bangladesh.
Yeah.
When they speak in Bengali, they think, "I love you, mom. I
Yeah.
love you too." So I really believe that the thing that we're talking about love, these feelings that you have for someone.
Yeah.
Without you like somebody, without it's not, what's the word? There's another word called non-self-interested love. There's not a nice word. No, there's another word. Unconditional.
Unconditional love. Yeah.
I think love has something with unconditionality, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, it doesn't stay unconditional all the time, right? But when you initially love somebody, then in many cases, you feel that you don't care what the person background, you just love that person. So there are all kinds of love. I think what we can define is you like somebody and you really care for that person. You want to help that person.
Is it really unconditional though? That would be my question. Oh, there's a marker. I'll come to you in a second. Oh no, I'll come to you, Shahid, because you had your hand up earlier. Yeah. No. Okay, no, you go.
No, what I was to say is just to second what Ahmadullah was saying here, Muhammad was saying here, that yes, and that there is a sort of modern idea of love that comes perhaps from European sense, and in other parts of the world, perhaps because, and also perhaps in Europe earlier on, it was something that was more practical based. But another point is, yes, there are many kinds of love. So you do have love of parents for their children. So you can have unconditional love. You can have love of a pet, a dog, for example. Unconditional love for, people go rescue their pets from amazing situations and incredibly difficult situations. And that cat sounds like it needs rescue. Oh, sorry, right, okay. So there's many kinds of love. And the thing is, you can even, for example, feel some indefinable something for example, a painting. You look at a painting and you feel something that's in there. And I'd suggest that love, whilst being love of a person, which is what we're talking about, is also perhaps something we see in that other person that we can't quite put a finger on. Something that when we love them.
Not being able to put our finger on it, in a way, that's been a bit of a theme for the conversation so far, because we've not been able to put our finger on what love is.
Life is. Love is life. Life is love.
Well, thank you, Hussein, for pointing out that Archie wanted to say something, and Archie hasn't said anything yet, so I'm going to give it straight to Archie.
I completely stole it from you. I'm very sorry. No, I was just thinking, absorbing what people were saying, but no, I'm thinking that I definitely believe in love. I feel love very, very deeply for people. But I don't believe in unconditional love at all, and I don't know if that's because I don't have children. And I feel like that's the type of unconditional love that people always talk about. I feel like that's the only people I've ever had tell me they'll love me unconditionally, and my parents. But I don't believe that any adult relationship has unconditional love as part of it. I feel like it's always conditional.
What are some of the big conditions?
Well, if someone, for want of a better word, fucks me over, I'm not going to love them anymore. No, I'm not. And I think love is entirely reciprocal. I don't think you can have one-sided love. I don't necessarily believe in unrequited love either. I think love is something that two people build together, or even like people and their pets, or people and animals, or people and things. It's something that people build together. So I don't think it can be unconditional. I don't think it is without conditions. You need all kinds of different types of things to make love happen.
Okay. Well, I guess we want to make love happen.
My question is that 2 points. One point is what it made me think of what you were saying, Mohammed, about children saying to parents, "Oh, I love your mom, I love your dad," whatever. Are people these days, specifically this day and age, are we abusing the word love? Are we just using it without actually understanding what the meaning of it is my question to the table.
Well, I mean, it seems like we've gone on for a long time not understanding the meaning. We're pretty much forever.
But is it just like people just say it glibly? They don't know what that means. They don't even think about whether it's conditional or unconditional. I really like that point, actually, because I never thought of it, but I think perhaps it is always conditional. But the second point is love, like, what's the kind of like expiry date on love? Like, can love last forever, or
Okay, what is the expiry date on love? Is a good point. I'm going to come to you. Actually, I'll go to his. Ahmed, you've not said much yet, so we want to hear from you. I know you're listening. Feel free to chime in on this one at any time. Hussein.
No, I mean,
yeah,
kind of anybody knows me. Kind of, I've made a lot of. We grew up on Bollywood and Indian culture, which is complete fantasy. For me, a lot of what people talk about love, even in the West, is complete fantasy. To something that there is something real about it, but a lot of it is fantasy and vagueness.
It must be quite compelling because, as Mohammed said, it spreads across the world. So it must be something.
No, I know. But the thing is, when we talk about love, you're talking about, firstly, when this discussion is talking about romantic love. And that's why other languages have different words for what you would call romantic love. But in English, we only have one word. And therefore, when we talk about love, we're talking about all these different things, which that's the thing about English. And if you she mentioned agape, which is ancient Greek, or Greek now, they had at least four different concepts for love. If you read Greek philosophy and Plato, etc., in the Symposium, etc., all those. And Sanskrit has about 100 words for love. And I'll give a basic idea. I mean, I know limited man, but at least you can say, so you would say mother love, father love, brother love, this uncle love. And different people can express that form of love. So I can express mother love to my brother. So so the quality you can embody, even though you're a man, that kind of love. So it's an action embodied in that quality of action, that emotion. And that, ironically, is much more sophisticated than the contemporary notions of what it is. It's very, very kind of vague, and it's partly ideological and vagueness for this kind of desire to be.
Why do you think we've gone that way?
Self-affirming, how do you say? Have self-agency, and we determine everything about our emotions. And but a lot of it, if you did that, and I went through that, is fantasy, and the idea that you somehow have controlling of these ideas that you have. But we were just basically acting out Bollywood movies for the first 20 years of our adult lives.
But I want to know why.
And Hollywood people, and Hollywood is the same. I mean,
Hollywood and Bollywood.
And if you see,
hang on a second, Shahid's going to come in.
No,
here.
I'm just saying what Hussein was saying I'm just asking a question. Is it because of in Asia and other parts of the world, they have family structures that allow for the expression of these different kinds of love, which in the West maybe not so much. But at the same time, are you also suggesting, Hussein, that we're all under some kind of massive kind of universal kind of almost like a delusion that individual love, loving somebody, trying to look for somebody, finding somebody who we're compatible with. I mean, nobody's brought this point either, compatibility, whether compatibility, because arranged marriages, for example, certainly when I was younger, a lot of people would say to me, in an arranged marriage, love will come if you don't love each other first. It's a very serious undertaking you're starting on, and eventually love will come as you live your life together. If it's not the first week, then it's in the first 6 months, say. But that doesn't always happen. And in fact, social, as Ahmadullah was pointing out, a lot of social change is happening because of things like social media and so on. It means a lot of young people can get in touch with each other much more quickly. So in fact, the thing that happened in the West or in Europe some time ago is perhaps happening in other parts of the world now, where people are choosing to be autonomous and kind of making love, finding love themselves, rather than it being arranged for them. So, so a breakdown of social structure.
What Hussein was saying about different words, right? Like, for example, historically, as far as I know, there was no word for love, in my language, right? But you had like word for affection, like maya, and sneho, right?
What was the second one?
Sneho.
Sneho.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like, you have affection for somebody.
Yeah.
So you would say, I have like maya, it's like feelings, like caring feeling towards you, right? So father and children, mother, children, they would say like that. They wouldn't say love, right? Obviously now more and more people are copying, the English one. About the romantic love, right? I really think it's also based on human nature, because human beings, we don't fully understand human nature, right? Something that makes us feel good, we want it kind of more. So when we read a romantic novel or see a romantic film, it makes us feel good.
I disagree with the fundamental notion that we just acquire these things that we read romantic novels, we see romantic films, and everything. Oh, I've got to have some of that. I mean, if in a novel,
but imagine a Bollywood film that
George
just had
Eliot,
a bit of affection, or that had
no,
some love for
yes,
the mother.
that it does affect us. It affects the way we see things.
It must be hitting. It must be pushing.
There's a novel by George Eliot called Middlemarch, and in that book, very long book, there is an ironic description of a man who is a kind of desiccated old man who sort of thinks, I've got to fall into a passion. I've got to fall into a passion for this much younger woman. It's required of me to love like this. It's a requirement. So this idea that we artificially do something for, I mean, what Ahmadullah says is right, that it's fundamental part of our personality. We are intrigued by other people, other personalities. Ian's falling asleep.
Let me hang on a second. I'm going to come to you in a second, Ian, but I noticed that Ahmed wanted to say something. He gets priority as someone that hasn't said anything yet. So go on then.
I mean, when I was younger, I used to believe in, I mean, I fell in love with and had crashes with other girls, you see a girl and you instantly fall in love with that person.
Yeah.
When you're younger. But as you grow older, it becomes a bit more conditional, someone mentioned, And but I truly believe that true love is a spiritual thing. It's a spiritual experience, for me at least. And I believe that my true love is God. Because he's the one who, the being up there is the one who I believe is truly unconditionally loving me. So I in return unconditionally love the being up there, because it's a spiritual feeling that I can't put in words. It's more of an internal feeling that.
But it also comes to this question about defining, because is that something you can really define?
No, it's elusive. It's elusive, but you can feel it more than define it, because you can't put those feelings into words.
Yeah.
Because it's a spiritual thing. Spiritual is more. It's not tangible. Spiritual is more. It's a feeling. Like we feel the wind. We have never seen the wind, or we've seen the effects of the wind. So you can feel the effect of the love that you have for the God, but you don't have to.
Okay, so actually maybe in the realm of sort of definition and sort of very, it's not about. It's more about a feeling and experience.
So in return, when you love God, you love everything else.
Yeah.
Everything else becomes love. Everything else becomes very spiritual and very sort of. There is love everywhere.
So it almost like reflects and magnifies your love.
Yeah. So even if you love say if a man loves a woman, but because he loves God, that kind of radiates to that other person that he loves as well.
Okay, well, so I think that's a really interesting point, and moving away in a way from definition to feeling. Margot.
My question is, can you feel the same love that you were just describing, but without God? And second, I just wanted to put it to the table, what about love versus passions? Because is it similarities, differences?
Passion, because okay, you're laughing, Ian. Have you got anything to add to this? And we've got Teddy online as well at the moment.
Nothing trade. I'm so interested in what other people are saying, but our printer are very eloquent, so I'm just listening at present.
Okay. So I mean, does anything they've said struck a chord with you?
Don't press me.
All right, I'm going to move to Teddy online. Any thoughts about what you've heard so far?
Sure, I can comment a lot about love, I think. I also, when I saw the topic of love tonight, I was like, oh shit, I don't want to open up too much. You're talking to someone who's experiencing that in quite a raw form at the moment. So I think that's why I naturally go towards like community love, because I think I've had to fall back on that recently. I've had to fall back on people that don't have motives which are romantic or sexually driven. And so,
I mean, is it a completely different thing, or is it all part of the same generic love feeling, or are these very different feelings?
Oh, look, I mean, for me, I think it's very important that as an individual, you need to define what love means to you. And certainly for me, of course, it's spiritual and nurturing and kind of respect. And it goes way beyond what is just romantic, I think. Interesting that the conversation immediately goes to romantic, and it's far more than that. For me, it's certainly far more than that, and I need more than that. I have, yeah, I rely on that. And Margaret, you talk about like desires. I'm fortunate, I think, in life that I have many loves that don't revolve around another person. If I put all my eggs in one basket, I'm fucked. You know, it's going to be a problem.
That's just making me think. I don't know. I have a question. I feel like when we're not talking about romantic love, what do people feel about like self-love? Like if you're loving God, or if you're thinking about like all your different passions, your desires, like is that just a form of self-love? Are you just finding a way to sort of love yourself and appreciate the things that you like, rather than trying to project it onto other people? And I don't know what people think about that.
Well, I'm going to before I come to anyone else, I'm saying you sort of say something, but what do you think about it? Because you brought it up.
What do I think about self-love?
Yeah.
I think that it's I don't know, I really like my boyfriend, but it's probably my favorite type of love.
Yeah.
I think that it's the most powerful type of love. It's the thing that I probably get the most satisfaction from, doing things that I love and I enjoy and I'm passionate about on my own without other people. I find really, really enjoyable.
Is it kind of almost like hogging the love to yourself rather than give it to other people?
Kind of. And I think that it's something that where I do feel like love, particularly if it involves other people, is very conditional.
Yeah.
If I'm in control of the conditions around the self-love,
Is
that's
self-love
something that
the only unconditional love?
I don't think it's unconditional. I think you have to put the work in to make self-love happen. But it's something that I know if I put those work in and I make the conditions right, nobody else can fuck it up.
What work do you have to put in to be able to love?
Figuring out what you like, figuring out what you enjoy, figuring out what makes you feel good and what doesn't. And I think, just spending that time with yourself and thinking. I don't know, I'm someone that likes to sit around thinking about my thoughts and feelings all the time.
Okay, so give yourself some time to think and feel.
I think so.
Okay, very interesting. Margie, you got your hand up, but going over to Sam and then.
I'm gonna kind of up the stakes now, because I think now in the times that we live, kind of last 10, 20 years, the level we live in a very, very egotistical society, and I don't think real kind of even compared to the fantasy, we don't talk about love in the way we used to talk in popular culture anymore. I mean, the songs are banal. They don't really mean it. Even in the 70s and 80s, when they were a bit more, maybe you could say where you felt that they were a bit, because I grew up then, more genuine. But now even a lot of young people, rightly so, and a lot of people generally are much more cynical about all this fantasy. And I think that's healthy. But kind of there's not anything beyond that. Let's say it's much more egotistical. And I find that, to talk about love in these times, and I travel quite a lot. I travel a lot of time to Latin America. And that's, quotes unquote, a more conservative society to, let's say, Britain, let alone my parents' culture from Bangladesh. You know, I grew up with kind of the love existed within the social collective, and it was an individual. So that sense of what European modern love, which comes from German Romanticism, is the exclusivity to the exclusion of everybody else. That person becomes everything and all to you. And that's the kind of concept we talk about, romantic love. Yeah. And that even that now that doesn't exist. But I don't, you know, I kind of see more dialectic. I mean, a lot of people I know, the average person, they particularly don't like themselves. Right. You can't. People need to like you for you to have a relationship with yourself. I don't see it as we're exclusively.
I mean, Archie's got a point about the self-love.
You know, I think, you know, that's one of the issues. What is called the English language doesn't help with this. That could be confidence. That could be being at ease with yourself. Whether that's love or not, that's the problem about definition. You know, I'm compared to when I was younger, I'm more secure and more confident of myself. Whether I have more or less or more successful, that's another issue. You're saying a lot of people I know, if they made £1 billion, they're successful and everybody loves them. Everybody sees them as a sign of success. I don't, you know, for me, that doesn't say anything. So just having a notion, for me, the nearest thing I can see, and this is what I agree with the person on the television, is the nearest thing to me is the kind of individual, social, and immediate level. The nearest thing for me, love, is now I would say solidarity of some kind. You know, expressing solidarity to the wider world, to yourself, to other people. Well, I think that's what but that's a general principle. How you do that in a mature form, and you know, I think it's great when young people are crazy about love because you see the excitement, the enthusiasm, but there's a heavy dose of, for me as an older person, delusion. So it should be. I mean, you grow, but the culture doesn't help. You get no
But, I
education
mean,
in
is it
schools.
just a part of life that I feel
Yeah,
like
but you
most of
don't,
us
let's
have
say
been through?
education doesn't deal with any of these things. Where did you learn about these things?
Yeah.
On Hollywood movies, where do you learn about sexuality? You don't
Yeah.
learn anything at school where you're meant to learn, and the
Yeah.
parents don't really talk about it.
Okay. There's a lot of points there. I'll come to you in a second. But
I mean, I think there is a taboo of talking about love, and I think sex education is one thing, but I think actually how to, in a mature way and a balanced way, deal with emotions. I mean, I don't know. I think we all kind of maybe struggle with that, and maybe therefore it's quite hard to convey. But I think it would be worthwhile
should
as
there
a
be like an
subject, or
emotion
philosophy.
subject?
Indeed, that should be a subject, like straight up. That should be a subject in everything. But I wonder, as you were talking about self-love, I wonder whether such thing existed before 21st century, but maybe just had a different name or just didn't exist, because it just makes me think of like, why do we have to revert back to, okay, wait, like block out everything else. What do I like? What do I enjoy? What gives me confidence? What gives me strength? Why do we have to like almost like carve out time in our lives to do that? Why is that not a part of like every day? Why do we have to have, self-love as a thing that we do? Why are we just not doing that? Why isn't that part of our work, our education, our creativity?
Self-love thing.
I think I just don't understand why. I think it's a good thing, but I don't agree with this being as some kind of, I don't know, like almost like a lifestyle choice. I'm not saying that's what you said, but like what is it? Why cultivating the soul is like called something? Why can't we just cultivate our souls? Anyway,
we've got a couple of, hang on, let's just pause this. We've got a couple of new faces at the table. We've got Ian, we've got Margot, we've got Archie, we've got Gonzo, we've got Hussein, we've got Ahmed, we've got Shahid. And I'm calling you Mohammed, but you were calling him, what were you calling him? Ahmadullah. Yeah, so I've got that bit wrong. And who have we got over here?
I'm Akbal.
Tanya.
Welcome. And as you well know, I'm Mikey. And at the moment we're talking about love, but there's a few things we've talked about. We talked about like this kind of the idea of romantic love. Is it quite a relatively recent thing that's come out of German Romanticism? Says the same. We talked a little bit about, apparently back in the day in Sanskrit, there were 100 words for love. So there's a little bit of that going on, but then there's also this question about, how we're evolving. Archie just recently mentioned this idea of self-love. Is it the greatest love of all? These are some of the questions we're talking about. Can you define love? And what about kind of like, is love more of a feeling? What about the spiritual sense of love and the love of God? These are all some of the things that are coming out at the moment. Romantic love. And, it seems like all of us here, maybe most of us are a little bit, been through the mill, let's say, and, we're kind of out the other side. So we're maybe a little bit more objective about these things. You said jaded, I didn't say jaded. And that's where we are so far, but I'm sure you'll pick up the pieces very soon and help yourself to drinks and snacks. That comes out of the community lab. Sorry, Teddy, we've got Teddy online. Can't help themselves to the snacks. But yes, I'm going to go to Mohammed. What was it again? What did you say? Ahmadullah. Sorry, Ahmadullah.
Unfortunately, we have to go now, right? Yeah. But before we go, we'll come again. We're very excited.
Okay, well,
right?
thank you.
Next time we stay, the whole of the session. But last word on love from me. Now, I personally believe, human beings are complex, right? And they all don't experience love in the same way. Right? But there is something common, right?
Yeah.
As human beings, we also are common. But Margot mentioned about passion.
Yeah.
But love can be combined with passion. Love can be combined with jealousy. All other kinds of human nature and emotions and so on. So it's like a complex thing. Just last word I would say.
Yeah.
I saw a YouTube TV program, right? But they got people from Bangladesh from different regions, right?
Yeah.
To talk about their local languages.
Yeah.
So they asked, what is love in your? Literally. Yeah. I find you good.
Yeah.
Right. That's love in their language, right?
Yeah.
Another one is like, I experience good. Right. So
yeah.
So I would say,
Yeah.
Many different kinds of love experience.
Yeah.
I think Amadou was saying that when we say I love you, in Bengali we say Ami tomake balobashi, which means kind of I like you.
Yeah.
I find you good. You know, it's just I experience good. I experience good. I feel goodness rising up in me. So yeah.
See you later. Thank you. Thanks for coming. And the next one, 31st of March. Inshallah, inshallah, inshallah. We will see you. Donabad Shabaratri. And we will say, are you all, hang on. If you're going, you have to give us a final thought. Give us a final thought. What do you think of all of this? Where are we going to take this conversation?
No, first of all, thank you for inviting Michael.
Well, no, you're very welcome. And thanks for coming. And
very interesting event.
Your perspective.
Yeah, like I said, I believe in spiritual love. You know, I believe in loving God, which is unconditional.
Yeah.
Other forms of love is conditional, I'm afraid, unfortunately, because you can't truly love someone unconditionally. There is a condition, like, for example, unless you got this, we might have an unconditional love where you have a really big heart. You forgive someone who even killed you, your parent or your sibling, but you have that big heart to forgive them. That's very rare, you know. But other than that, I think it's love is conditional, but again, there's love everywhere.
Yeah.
There's love everywhere because love is a spiritual thing for me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hang on a second. They're saying we can't let you go. You've got to give us. Doesn't have to be that as long as Ahmed. So I was surprised it's quite a long speech. But give us a final thought before you go. It could just be one sentence.
Just say something. Thank you.
Yeah, and I wish you want to say he's got the car, so we have to go with him.
Exactly. Well, there's a little bit of love going on there.
What can I say? I mean, I'd like to respond actually to Margot, which I thought she put very well, which was initiated by Archie, saying self-love, which I think of self-cultivation, and also, I guess, self-esteem, self-regard.
Sorry, Shahid. Just drag the window to the left onto the other screen. The Zoom window, so we can see it again. Just flick through the. Oh. Okay. Anyway, go on. Sorry, Shahid.
No, so I think it's quite an old concept, you know, going back quite a way. Self-regard, not self-regard as in self-regarding, which is a negative concept of too much self-love, but overly, you know, regard of the self, you know, like vanity almost. But self-regard as in self-esteem, and that goes through into like psychology or therapeutic forms of psychology.
Is it the most primal, the first most
finding the right level?
Is it the original? You know, I think. Archie's gone to the lead.
I don't know if it's the most primal, most original sort of feeling, and so
that's my question. Yeah.
However, I think finding the right level in yourself so that you are at ease in yourself and you know who you are, that kind of thing, it happens with time. It grows with time. In a lot of young people nowadays, at least the way we sort of perceive them in the media, which is media talking about media, is that, oh, they're all kind of taking selfies of themselves and they have personality problems or they have self-image problems, thing. So this finding the right level. You neither put yourself too low, nor do you put yourself too high. Finding yourself.
But I mean, is that kind of Instagram culture, the selfie culture? Is it really a form of self-love?
Exactly the point, that it isn't. I mean, that it's kind of shallow, that it's fake or false or doesn't have a real foundation. So that's the point. But
okay, I'm going to bring it to Tanya. And I'm going to just sort this out, but I am listening. So just carry on talking, Tanya.
So what I was
quickly sort this out. Go on.
So it was said before that there's lots of language thing as well, that you would, in one language, you would love everything, you know, especially when you also American English or English, you love, you know, even McDonald's says, I'm loving it, and everything. It can be a color, it can be the nail polish, it can be whatever. But I think other cultures are a bit more restrictive when they give love out. And that is one thing where you just say stuff, and it depends maybe what language you say it in or what culture you say it in, and also the depth of sincerity with it.
Yeah.
As well, and that is also some, like with the whole Instagram culture, as you were saying. I think that is a bit more of self-portraying.
Yeah.
I don't think it has that much to do with love itself.
I mean, have you got any experience of other cultures apart from British culture?
So when you think of like, I think culture and language really goes hand in hand, doesn't it? So I think it will be. I think there's nuances even within English. If you've got American, as I said, American English, which seems to be very hyped up. I mean, I work with a American company, and everything is so hyped up. Everything is just like at such extremes because just like it's so like everything is just like it's just like people want to die for their company, for their colleagues, or for the thing, or for the product. It just is so intense that to me it just seems that it can't be true, and they can't love it so much as they bring it out to the world that they do. And like with the German culture, which is like very, well, me particular, but I guess the whole culture is a bit more down to earth and just like maybe more cynical, or maybe also acceptant of that things are not so great. Everything, just sitting in front of a computer for 8 hours, 12 hours, meeting deadlines, it's not so great. I'd rather be out and do hundreds of other things, and it's okay. And you also have a scale from 1 to 5 for a reason. So you don't need to love and extremely love and hyper love everything. So there's a reason why you start with 1 where it's not love. It's like you might even dislike something. But if you start loving from loving more and loving whatever, then it's just kind of within that definition, it changes.
So in Germany, they use the whole scale. They don't just,
well, maybe I think
a 4 or a 5. They go from 0 to 5.
I think it gets more and more extreme because, like as it rolls over from America and from America mainly, but like everything is so fantastic, or everything. So I think that there's a reason, and I think people get punished for not loving things so much.
Okay, so in a way, you almost, as peer pressure, you're kind of forced to be in this loving kind of hyped up sort of situation. Yeah. Okay.
I think that kind of hyping things up and just kind of using and abusing the word love, I think that comes from insecurities. And I think if you don't instantaneously hear yes, that's right, or yes, I love you too, then there's like automatically, I think our brains these days go, oh shit, what's wrong? And the truth is, you may be on 1 out of 5 of love or excitement or whatever, but it's fine. It's not a crisis to be managed.
In Britain, maybe if we're influenced by America, we live in a bit of a hyped up society.
I think you live in a wordy society that uses a lot of words, but some of them don't have meaning.
Okay. Oh, I'm just going to give it to you actually, but you're just mentioning the. What's that, Tanya?
I think not only words, but a lot of code. So that is similar, I think, where you just say something.
So things are not.
But you can't, if I say, if I think, oh, this is really shit, then an English person might say, oh, that's interesting. And if I say in my language that's interesting, then I actually think it's worth exploring.
Yeah.
But not just like,
okay, so things are not said in a very direct kind of way. It's like, if you say maybe, you actually mean no fucking way. So yeah, go on, Archie.
No, just thinking about everyone saying that things get lost in translation, and that we say that we love each other and sometimes we don't and stuff. I'm currently living with my best friend who is really going through the ringer because she just told her boyfriend of like 8 months that she loves him, and he didn't say it back, and she's completely had a meltdown about it, doesn't know what to do about it at all. And it's just kind of what you were saying is just like really like resonated with me, and how much she's like put herself out there for him and kind of said something, and he's not said it back, and in her head the whole relationship isn't worth having anymore. And he's been really clear and been like, no, I could love you one day, it just takes time, it's this, it's that, and the other. But she thinks the whole relationship has completely changed just because he didn't say it back. I think that's like an interesting thing. I don't really have any like it is interesting. I do find it interesting. It's shit for her, but also I think that it's genuinely interesting. I've never been in that position. I don't know how I would take it. I don't know how I would feel about it in either side, but it's
distorted way. So there's all this kind of distortion that goes on. So what I'm not sure Tanya was saying about nuance, whereas in America, let's say it's America, maybe other places as well, the culture that comes across that influences people's understanding means that they only have a certain range. It's either 0 or it's 10. It's nothing in between. So one thing that lies fundamentally underneath, and Archie touched on it, is patience, is time. Just having time to spend time and to see that a person might even love, but they're not demonstrative, or they might love, or they might not yet love, but they may love eventually. Or it takes time. There's other sort of nuances that might not be being absorbed in a culture that demands immediate satisfaction, immediate immediate fulfillment, immediate I'm
going to come to you a second about Ian, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say there's also like notions of possession as well, because I've personally been in relationships where I found that my partner has perhaps slept with somebody else. And I realized I grappled with this thing that if you love somebody, you obviously want them to be happy.
Yeah.
But what you want really is you want them to be happy with you. So that's the conditional thing. Where love is conditional. It's like on condition that you love me, and it's not, focus on me. And I think the thing about having self-love means that you don't have to live off other people's love. You don't have to have people that give you the reason to exist. You're happy in yourself, and you can say to people, you've got the confidence to say to people that I love you, or I love this, or I love that, and whatever they say is fine, but it doesn't alter the fact. And the fact could be that that person or that thing doesn't love you back, but if you're happy to accept that you love that, then, or love them, then you go on, and you find circumstances that will nurture a love between something or somebody, and then you come together on that.
Okay, so you don't think it's like the kind of, you can actually move forward if somebody is sleeping with somebody else, even when they say they love, they don't say they love you, who knows? But it's about, if you've got that confidence, as you said, I think you said earlier on, Shahid, or self-love, whatever you want to call it, then it's not as important as if you don't have anything. When we come to Margot, everyone wants to say something. Margot, you had your hand up first, then Tanya.
I just wanted to say that I think these days love just becomes a commodity, and I think just like I want, somehow I think we want exclusivity. We want it to be about us. Even like I really love that example of like I want you to be happy, but actually happy with me is what I'm saying. And I think I think we can just go and kind of request out of the menu and on the understanding that of course that's what it means, and of course that's what I will get. So that's why open relationships and like all sorts of different non kind of standard relationships, I find them really interesting. How do they deal with that? I mean, I don't know how all of them deal with it, but
Okay, there was a point from Tanya, and then come.
All right. So I think being in love with somebody or having an infatuation or something similar is very different to liking somebody. You don't have to like somebody to be in love with them.
Really?
Yeah.
So earlier on, we came up with this concept of love. Is love heavy like?
No, I don't think it's anything to do with liking.
Yeah.
I really don't. I think it's quite. I've definitely been in love with people that I dislike.
Right. Okay.
This kind of goes back to the somebody mentioned that there are different qualities of love. You can love somebody as a mother, even if you're yourself, you are different gender or whatever. So these roles, so it's kind of connects into projection, what Mikey mentioned, and psychoanalysis. And
I didn't mention anything.
Anyways, it was a long time ago. You forgot. That's fine.
Yeah.
And I agree that you can love somebody without liking them, and even do not understand what's going on.
Bad for you.
Okay.
You know it's gonna mess up your life.
Yeah.
I do not want to use the word fuck.
Okay.
But, I mean that.
Okay.
But I think the circumstances are very different. I mean, if you love mostly you love your family members, and very often you don't like them. But then also for the falling in love bit, I think this is all a very, I mean, it's, and that's why I agree with like loving is the degree of liking. But for example, the whole concept of falling in love is so different from loving somebody. So I mean, falling in love or being in love takes, I think, you know, it's very limited of time. So I think when you're together with somebody for a long time, the feeling changes from being in love or being in lust or being like all of these hormones that float around your system from which is connected to the feeling that you don't know that person so well and that you still are so eager to discover and find out more, and everything is so exciting. And once you are coming to a certain discovery stage where you know that person and you like them, well, I guess the longer you're together with somebody, if it's a healthy relationship, you like them. And then you just like kind of trade that in like a certain feeling of security and a certain feeling home with somebody, like these things. I don't think that you can, I mean, sometimes you feel that probably earlier than later, but I think that is and it's a bit strange that we're using the same word for all of these different phases of feeling. And again, in other languages, you don't. So if like, for example, in love, in Germany is something completely different. So we've got like
what is in love?
So it's like if you're a bit more like to fancy somebody, you know, like this is like verknallt. Ich bin in dich verknallt.
Yeah.
And then if it's a bit more serious, then you're verliebt.
Yeah.
But then and then you would normally say as your friends like I love you, which is like you say ich hab dich lieb, I have love for you earlier, and then I love you is then when you're, you know, then when you're closer to this.
So you've got like a sort of intermediate stage going on there.
It's like a bit like, you know, like when you're dating exclusively, when you're just like getting engaged, like these sorts of things. And there's also words for the different.
Yes, there are specific words, it seems, in German that describe these different stages. But say in English, where we just have, let's say, just the word love, though we don't necessarily, because for example, you mentioned another one like I fancy you, I have a crush on you, or something like that. I think we make do. We make, you know, there are other sort of idioms that make do to sort of describe. For example, people say things like "you're the one," "you're the," you know, and the sincerity with which you mean it, the seriousness with which you mean it, can be felt or can be understood, tacit or implicit in the situation. So there's a kind of, the language makes up for it, because people are still people despite national boundaries, obviously, you know, so they all have the same range of emotion. Maybe language, if it lacks certain of the nuances or the subtleties, then that creates problems. But I'd suggest that people can and do make do, you know, they, you know.
That it's that people don't, I don't think that people always have the same range of emotions. I do think it's a very much a personality thing as well. There are people that fall in love super easily and some don't, you know, like if you're, I mean, I would never dream of being with somebody for 8 months if I couldn't tell them that I love you for like so much earlier on.
I mean, how many months does the I love you come in? And is it like ich hab lieb für dich, or is it?
But yeah, sometimes it's really early. Sometimes because then it's just like feelings, you know. It's just like I told this one. But actually, I told him that he was falling for me within the first couple of hours.
So maybe that's what your friend should have done.
That's why you love me.
I've got something really important to tell you. You love me.
Yeah, like something like this. So.
That's actually really interesting in you saying that, because I told my boyfriend now that I loved him relatively early on, but actually after a while, one of the things that he said to me was, "Oh, you love me so much." And that was like a really different way of expressing love to each other, which I really, really liked. And I actually really liked it. It was a really nice thing that felt like, when you were talking about like those different stages, that felt like such a deeper way of saying, I love you, or we are in love with each other. And I really liked that. And it, just you saying that, I was like, no, actually, maybe that is what she should have said to her boyfriend.
Well, it's not too late, is it? I mean,
maybe I'll tell her.
Yeah, okay. Maybe we should get her in. And these days we're online. We've got Teddy here. I hope we're not ignoring you here, Teddy, online. But maybe we can bring in Archie's flatmate just to bring her in on the chat. But anyway, Teddy, have you got, while I'm turning to you,
Yeah.
Have you got any?
Yeah, well, firstly, just love the microphone a bit more so I can hear everyone clearly. That would be great.
Oh, have I not turned it up enough?
Sometimes it's not so close to people's mouths, so
Okay, what I need to do
have
is
a relationship with that microphone. It'd be great.
You've got the green flashing light there, Shahid. Can you just turn it up a couple and not that one? Yeah.
This one?
Turn it up a little bit. We're just gonna do a quick sound check.
It's definitely not that button.
Yeah, and the other one as well. That's gone up too high now.
Down.
So it's glowing orange.
That's good.
Do there, yeah. Fantastic. A bit more. Yeah, that's. Is that better?
Perfect. Good.
Okay. All right. We're dealing with the technical as well, and those people watching live on the stream. Time to turn your volume down. Okay, where are we going to go with this? So we're talking about love. We're talking about Ich liebe dich. Yeah,
that's a song, isn't it? Hit me with your rhythm stick, isn't it? He says that, doesn't it? I never knew what that meant, and I didn't look up the translation. Yeah, they've gone now. Tanya's gone to be able to translate what it means. But I wanted to say something about somebody had said. I think about altruism. That love is conditional. It's always conditional. So you may love somebody, and I think Ian said, if you love somebody, you really mean that you want them to be happy, but be happy with you specifically. I mean, the thing is, when my marriage ended, we were separated for 5 years, and she didn't want to break off because she was kind of fear of the unknown. She didn't want to sort of actually go ahead and do divorce and then sort of go face the unknown. So it was I that said to her in the end, after 5 years, let's do the divorce, because I knew there was somebody else there waiting for her. And so in a way, I kind of let her go, kind of said, you'll be happier basically with this other person, so that happened, so you can, I wonder, is that also a kind of love? You love that person, but enough that you're not going to be happy together. It's better to, in fact, it's not as better. It's the it's the right thing to do, to let them go and find happiness with somebody else.
That's an interesting point as well. Love it's not necessarily an attractive force all the time.
I'm just interested in this kind of like holding on, and I think kind of like ending relationships sometimes when that kind of lingers for a while, because neither of you wants to say like, oh, let's just, and because what's that to do with? Is it the unknown? Is it just like what is it? Or no. Hello, Lenny. But that's it. But
you can bring the dog in, no problem. Okay, so we got a new face as well, so let's just do the. Come and have a seat. Grab a drink if you want one. Whoops. We've got our own dog here. Anyway, so we have got Shahid, we have got Gonzo, we've got Archie and Ian. We've got Akbar and Tanya that have gone to the pub next door. Hopefully they'll be back. Tell us your name.
Vladimir Putin.
Vladimir Putin. Have you changed your name?
Danny.
Anyway, at the moment we're talking about love. We started off with I don't believe in love, and then like love is indefinable, all different types of love. Different cultures have got different types of love. Then we've got this, we sort of started talking more recently about how in the UK and maybe in like America too, everything's hyped up. It's all on level 5. It's all on maximum volume. And we've got Tanya here, who's from Germany, where it's a bit more like 1 to 5 instead of like either 0 or 5. And you move up the gears a bit more slowly around there. So Tanya says. But then we're also talking about, instead of saying I love you, maybe it'll be a better strategy to say you love me. So that's what we're talking about. So it's just kind of a few different points as well. Then the last thing we said is Shahid split up with his wife, but he actually was the one who had to sort of like say, look, let's actually finish this properly so that you can love somebody else. And that's a different kind of love in itself. So that's what we're talking about right now. I'm sure you'll pick up the pieces. Ian, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, first of all, I'd like to say it's a wonderful sentiment. I think it's very humane. Yeah, but what I'd like to know from people is what has been the not the funniest, but what has been the worst or the funniest way that you have been rejected, the way people have ended a relationship with you. I remember one when I woke up with somebody and they said, they just looked at me and said, well, I don't find you attractive anymore. I don't love you and you don't turn me on. And I said, oh, goodbye. And
wow.
Since then, I mean, that makes me laugh because it's just like, well, not any way around that, is there?
That's a bit of a tough, that's a tough statement. Yeah.
So is attraction the main, like, does physical attraction like the main thing in love? Then that's my question to the table.
Well, I mean, it seemed to be in this case. It seemed like that was very much. I mean, did you say after that, are we still together, or it was kind of
it was. I don't know if I was foolish, but I took it as the end of the relationship.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, it wasn't about confidence.
Okay. Well, I mean, let's go around with this a little bit and try and. Shahid,
well, I don't know about rejection. I can't think of any funny ways of being rejected. I've been rejected many, multiple times, but I can't think of any fun. But however, having said that, there's one funny incident that occurs to me, which is the first time I ever kissed somebody, which is when I was quite older already. I was 20, I was 21. It was the first time I ever kissed anybody. And I basically got them a bit drunk, or they agreed, to drink. However, this girl that I kissed was on campus at university, and I'd walked past her at one stage and I'd seen her, and I thought, I don't want to be cruel, but I thought she's the ugliest girl I have ever seen. And in the end, she was the one that I ended up, I don't remember how I met her cleaning. I was working as a cleaner in a high school, and in the high school, she was working there as well. It just happened by chance. And then I thought, well, I must have a chance with this girl. So, we got a bottle of wine, and then drank, and then I could see that she knew that I was just I was angling for, and she said, you just do it, and so on. So I did it, but it was with this girl that I had thought was, not quite the beasties.
I think we get the point. It's like you kind of like started at level one. But okay, so we're talking about, in a way, we're talking about learning. We're talking about when it goes a bit wrong. Danny, there are drinks. Have we got any more beers? Have we used up all the beers? I've got a pint next door. Oh, you've got a pint next door. Okay, well, bring it through. But we're talking about in a way when things haven't quite gone right, or we're talking about early moments where we're just fine. Go on, Tanya.
So for rejection,
we're going
so I think I had very few rejections really, but the ones that I have, they've sticked with me. So there was this one relationship I had when I was quite young, and it was not very functional from the start. But I was absolutely, I mean, he was a dick from the start, but I liked him so much. And I thought he was so attractive, or so sexy, the way that he was so aloof and bit of a, Anyway, and then it broke up, and it was, I was very young, both our faults. But for years and years and years, I could not let go. I had other relationships, but I was couldn't let go of this one. And I kept, like when you see shooting stars, and I was wishing that he would come back and like that sort of thing. And then I think the one that I married years and years later was very similar in the sense that it was also very dysfunctional. And it was an awful marriage, with an awful relationship. And then I was just thinking, sometimes it's just like almost like you didn't get that one that you wanted, and you forget kind of why you wanted it for. And I felt like that sometimes happens, that you get rejected, and it's more about you being a sore loser than actually you losing out on that person in your life.
So you're sort of, in a way, you're looking for a similar type of person. Go on.
To me, when love ends is when they wake up and go, who the hell are you? That's it. Who the hell are you? That's it. It's love to me. Love's but a dream, as they say.
Gonzo?
Sometimes you have kind of really like I'm somebody who's experiencing like intense feelings sometimes. And there has been a time when I fall in love with a friend who's we have kind of established so it becomes like a one-way sort of affection from my side. But then I overcome it, and the friendship still remains, and it has something.
Is that love or is that crush?
Hang on.
That's a good.
Love or crush?
I think it was like a several things on top. It's like a friendship is something that is important, and there's this aspect of love and affection, and kind of also the kind of this intense crush feeling of crush can also mean.
Do you reveal your feelings early on, or at a certain stage along the way, and early enough that they understand them? You don't. That happens. Yeah. That often happens, I think, for people who perhaps have sensitive feelings or sensitivity, and so you end up sort of trapped in your own space, and what happens is you eventually get put into the friendship bracket. I mean, it's the worst thing. It happens often enough, and I guess that's the worst thing that can happen. And I think it's not the other person to blame; it's not their fault, because it might have happened had you been forward enough. If you got to have a certain amount of forwardness where you go forward and say, I want to do this. I'm good enough. I'm worth, and they should pay me some attention.
So part of it is feeling worthwhile enough to actually. Okay. Tanya, I'll come to you in a second. Ian, have you got something to say? Why don't you just...
I think sometimes, the thing that I feel, sometimes it's just not worth to risk something, like when you already have established that you like somebody so much. But what I feel, because I got the same, I've got very intense feelings for all sorts of things. And then, for example, when I met this one, and I was just like, I really had nothing to lose. I met him, and I just thought he was, so cool in so many ways. And then I just told him from so early on that, this is great between us. But I knew from then, and I thought that he thought I was absolutely nuts. And I didn't mind because I just put it out there, and I said, you know what, I'm just saying it. And because so often people are afraid, like, oh, I don't want to say it. And what if they don't love me back? Or what if they don't fancy back? Like, well, then you know what you say.
Do you think that comes from the confidence of having kind of, had all those experiences that you touched on before?
No, I don't think so at all. I think that was just in that moment. I just felt I had nothing to lose. I came from a really shit place, just like emotionally or whatever. So I just felt that feeling, that feeling, and that flutter, and that all came up, and I just thought, oh, this is so nice, and I just didn't expect it to last. I just thought, it's there, and I'll just grab it now, and why not just like share it? So if he would have told me, oh, you're nuts, he told me afterwards. He thought he was polite enough that he wouldn't say it in this point, but then I just thought, well, so what if it doesn't get anywhere, then at least it's my feeling. It doesn't need to be done by anybody else, but it's within me. So why not? Say.
Hang on a second, we'll come to you in a second. So here comes Ian. And then...
So here's the thing. It's nice to be loved. If you say that you love someone, surely you're paying them a compliment. Surely you're saying that I really respect you, I really like you, or all the different concepts of the feelings you have for them. So really, you wouldn't say be proud, but why are we worried about paying somebody the compliment of saying that they're good enough for you?
People do. When you actually tell them you like them, that seems to somehow almost enact something in them where they think, oh, you're a bit uncool for saying that, so that seems to happen quite often. But the other thing about Tanya was saying, I wonder whether you run the risk of spoiling a friendship, like Gonzo was saying, that you might spoil, you end up, there's an awkwardness that comes about because you've revealed something and said something you feel more deeply about them than they may feel about you, or just bringing it up anyway. I thought that they might not be on their mind. Love might not be on their mind, but it is on yours. And then you bring it up, and then there's a kind of awkwardness, and they kind maybe drift away, or at least it stays there for a while. I suppose the relationship. The other thing is, I think, about is about being nice. If you're nice, it goes back to this thing about esteem. Like having self-esteem, self-regard, finding the right level, because you can be too nice, and then in fact you end up being put in a kind of a friendship bracket, or a kind of you're not predatory enough to use that word. If you're just not being sort of forward enough.
Okay, so can you be too nice?
The thing is, what I think that everybody is too obsessed with is just like to be in line with somebody else. It's just like always, always, are we on the same level? Do you feel the same? Do I feel the same? Are you whatever? And that is something I feel that we need to kind of free ourselves from, because you want me to hold this? And just like, it's the same thing as like, are the feelings reciprocated or whatever? Sometimes it just doesn't really matter, because at the end of the day, even if you fit with each other, that's fine, or if not, then it's fine as well. But I think if you're just like very honest, and also if you also give the other person the room and the freedom that they can be honest, and that you can also stand that you wouldn't like what you hear. And I think that is quite important as well, to just like kind of to free yourself. Sometimes you can say, I really love you, or whatever, and also be able to stand when they don't say it back. So just because you're saying something, that's fine.
Yeah.
But they, don't expect that everybody feels or wants the exact same thing at the same point of time as you do. I mean, it would be nice, but I think you can ruin a lot by forcing other people.
Yeah.
I wonder whether love exists. I mean, I got married, arranged marriage in the end when I was 38, and it was a girl who was very quite young. Maybe one of the problems, but I got married, arranged marriage, because I never had a relationship. I never had, at the age of 38, ever had a relationship that was anything. I mean, there wasn't any. There was no relationship.
Is that because you were holding back, or was that because you just...
I don't really know. I mean, I think part of it, I was just doing a lot of philosophizing, for want of a better word, and kind of just being but probably I was too nice a lot of the time. I was just holding a lot in, so I didn't necessarily speak out when I could have spoken out. Sometimes I look back, but the thing is, you look back, you get to an age and you start revising certain things that happened, so you start thinking, oh, it must have been because of this or that, whereas in actual fact, probably there were opportunities and there were moments, but I didn't speak out. I didn't say things, So that probably happened quite a lot. So I got an arranged marriage, thinking, well, then that's one way out, and then that didn't work out, So so this, I'd say, love doesn't exist, but I mean,
okay, well, there's a lot there to chew on. It's up to you guys where you want to take this. There's a lot of fingers up. It's interesting in this subject. There's less hands up and more fingers up. I don't know if that's to do with love or what, but
I'll just share with you a little story that happened to me when I was at university. I had a flat at home in Hackney, and I went as a mature student, so I was in a relationship. But I was very aware that I was going through a situation where there was a lot of younger people, a lot of cheap alcohol, a lot of pressure, and perhaps things would happen. So I kind of made it clear to my partner that, it might happen for her. There might be a lonely night when I'm away, because I was away all week, and I was in Colchester and she was on her own. So I kind of said to her, it's just as far from Colchester to London as it is from London to Colchester. And the meaning being, like, if you have a one night stand, it doesn't need to be the end of our relationship. As it happens to me, if I'm, something happens when I'm there, that's human. That's very human if you're lonely, that kind of thing. So anyway, one weekend I came home and we had a very small flat, and there was a knock at the door, and I could hear the knock at the door. I was laying in bed, and there was a guy at the door, and she went to the door, and I heard her say to him, "Oh no, my boyfriend's back now. We got back together now. It's not, somehow he sort of like talked to her, and he came into the front room. Now I'm next door in the bedroom, and she explained to him that, it was just a one-off and all that sort of thing, and that I was basically next door. And to his credit, he left. So imagine her, probably very anxious. She came into the bedroom and she said, "I'm really, really sorry. I'm really, really sorry." So I said to her, "Don't worry. Remember, I said to you, it's just as far from Colchester to London as it is from London to Colchester." She said, "You're taking it very well. Just think, if it was you, I'd kill you."
I'd have been a bit like her, really. I think, I don't know. I don't know. I was quite sort of, in my marriage, I was quite not possessive exactly, but quite controlling, I think is the word. I wasn't very mature in my, although I was already 30 by the time I got married, I don't think I was very mature in my understanding of relationships or women, that you got to give them some slack, you got to give freedom and so on. So I was quite controlling, not very good. Yeah.
I feel like I think it's a very brave thing to say, or like it must come from a place of confidence, I think, to say that to your partner. Look, just do it, because in situations where I'd say to somebody, whatever, let's do something, whatever, but I've got a boyfriend, then they'll be like, "Oh no, then I'm not interested." So it's like, I think there's some kind of a myth of, not a myth, but there's some kind of expectation of purity that, you can go and do whatever, but I want like the purest material. I don't want you to be cheating on me. Like, I can go and do that, or, I'm only human, do you know what I mean? But you kind of expect the other person to be, just going back to the thing we were talking about earlier, which is it's all about me. I want you to be happy, but with me. So I think it's like going back to the possession thing.
Okay, we talked. So you mentioned possession, but other people have mentioned this idea of like possession. Is that? Where does that come in love? Is that the dark side of love? I've been using this sound effect a lot tonight, just to try and get off the lovey-dovey a little bit. It's not up to me what you talk about, obviously, but it's what do people think about that kind of possessiveness? Does love imply that you've got some kind of rights over the person, Tanya?
I think it just risks that something changes, isn't it? Yeah. So it's like things change all the time, but it's just I think you're just like creating a certain environment where you minimize risks, maybe. And if you like, I personally wouldn't want to have an open relationship, because it's just like, it feels like I'd be too tempted. Not now, I'm old and ugly now, but when I was young and pretty, I had huge difficulty staying faithful to my boyfriends because there was so much temptation.
But you did it nevertheless.
No.
You didn't do it.
I wasn't very faithful at all. So it's just like, because, and I felt really bad for not being, but it just happened.
Yeah.
Opportunity doesn't happen so much, so you're okay.
For example, the story that Ian's said and that Margot said something about. If you expect somebody to not play away and you expect them like sort of just loyalty.
He was playing at home.
True. No, true. So, but if you expect them to have that kind of undivided loyalty, then I reckon you're asking too much in a way, because even in them, for example, you're almost asking them in their mind, for example, to not have other people that they think about, to not have other people. Everybody's got a history. Everybody's got some kind of complexity in them, to sort of kind of expect a kind of undivided, that person loves me. And you think of it as very simple and so on. It's not going to be like that. Everybody has stages in their lives and other people in their lives, even if they've not ever done anything with them. They might be in love. They might have been in love a long time ago with somebody else, though nothing happened. That's the person's part of their life as well. It's a part of their history.
You take on their whole history and their whole lifetime. Yeah. You're right, Akbar?
Yeah, I think.
You've lost your keys?
No, my phone.
The phone? Uh-oh. Did you leave it in AV Grill? Yeah, go on.
Yeah, I found in my life, coming coming from a working class background and the class into it, but
Yeah.
a lot of the women I met, especially in my early years, didn't have a lot of confidence. And, in many cases, I was their first boyfriend and that sort of thing. And when you meet somebody who doesn't have confidence and you show them that you love them and you praise them and you encourage them, and their character develops, and they suddenly like the fact that people are paying them compliments. They realize their own worth.
Yeah.
And then they find somebody else. So the thing about what I'm trying to say is that you're giving them the confidence to go out and be themselves, because they now realize that they're worth loving.
Yeah.
And they realize that you're perhaps not the person that they want, but perhaps the person that they needed at that particular time.
Yeah.
And that is awful. An awful feeling when you invest quite a lot of time and emotion in somebody, but you can't say anything because they need to, somebody who's been dormant for a long time because of fears or oppression or whatever, suddenly blossoms.
Yeah.
I know it's an emotive word, blossoms, but they're able to enjoy what they couldn't enjoy before. And they believe in themselves because someone else has believed in them.
Yeah. So, I guess what you're saying is that there's different stages. A bit earlier on, someone mentioned like the time factor in this, when you say, I think it was in relation to your flatmate's relationship about the time, is things are, and you as well mentioned, Tony, that things are always changing, people are developing. Anyway, you were going to say something.
No, I was saying that I think that is so strange because I can't relate to that when you say, oh, you put so much emotion or whatever into somebody and you're left with nothing. This happened to my sister. So her first boyfriend, she was with him for a couple of years, and then he was very shy, and he kind of then broke up with her after all of this time. And she said the same. She's like, oh, I've made him into this person that he is, and now he's going off with somebody else. And I just feel, as I said, I can't comprehend this at all, because for me, I'm just always a bit more selfish because I'm only with in general. It does not come as a trade-off. It's just like I am how I am, and when I'm with people that I really like or love or whatever, that comes back to me. So it's just like I never really felt that I would be sad, if I'm losing somebody, but it would never be. It's just like, oh, I've given him so much, or I've given her so much, or I've given so much of whatever, because it was just always a very mutual thing. So,
okay, so it's not necessarily about the love you. Hang on a sec, Shahid, let me just come to Archie.
I think also I kind of agree with you, because I think also that when you, like, if somebody becomes more, so, you show someone love and they become more confident or anything like that, I don't think you can take ownership for that. They've made themselves more confident. They've become a bigger or better or more outgoing person. And I don't think, I always find it quite weird when people say things like that. And I'm like, well, that wasn't you that did that. You might have shown them something that no one else has shown them before, but we all change our personalities when we see something new. We all change when we watch a new film. It's not like that film has done it. We've changed ourselves. It's just the film's given us the tools to do that. So I always find that a bit weird when people are
unusually magnanimous of you to say something like that. It's quite hard to hold that. To hold that point of view. That because it must almost be a natural thing to think, I enacted that in that other person, and so therefore to feel you have some element that you're owed almost from that person because you've enacted that change in them. I mean, yes, it is probably a false illusory thing because it's their life, and they're an autonomous, independent being. Sorry, I can't stop this. Sorry.
You're live on Talkaoke.
And what I was just going to say, sorry, I'm sorry, I'm probably hogging the microphone in, just my phone's ringing. I was just going to say, I guess sometimes people are also just not emotionally intelligent either. At certain stages in their lives, they might not be ready to have that emotional intelligence to see other people and understand that they have backstories, that they have weaknesses, or not weaknesses, but they might not be confident, for example, or they might not. You might not.
What is emotional intelligence?
that's hard to. But I guess just being sensitive to other people, to you know, have some kind of listening ear and kind of sense what that person might be about, you know, but that they might have a story, that they might have something, you know, to reveal about themselves, about their lives, you know, and that it's worthwhile to invest in that rather than just have your head in books, or, you know.
And come to you, Margot, and then.
Sorry.
Well, we're talking about.
But that was before emotional intelligence.
I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you.
I just want to say that when I said about people blossoming, it wasn't a gift that I was pretending that I was giving them. It was them nurturing themselves and
Is
becoming.
It a growth of emotional intelligence as well, do you think?
Yeah, I think or self love, if you want. Someone else loves me, so therefore I must be lovable. I have to say, when those relationships ended, it was very painful. You know, it wasn't something that I would want, and something like, you know, because I wanted to be with that person. And in fact, the fact that that person went off with another person, kind of, it really hurt. So it's not something that I don't go around giving out good vibes to people, you know. But I'll tell you one thing it's really good about getting older, and that is that you don't flatter anymore. I don't flatter people. I think what you said about being old and ugly is totally untrue. But I could say that, and I don't want to flatter you because it just has to be a fact.
So, okay, so you can be more straight down the line.
Yeah,
Archie?
I guess just thinking about what you said again, I think that, because I said, like, I find it weird when people think like that, or when they think, you know, I did that, or I did that for you, or whatever. But I've never been heartbroken. And I can imagine that if I was, and if I did feel hurt, then I would probably, all of what I just said would probably completely fly out the window, and I'd be very bitter, and I'd be very jaded, and I'd be very angry. So I was just kind of thinking about that, bouncing off what you were saying.
I mean, do you think that isn't like almost like a necessary stage to go through in
I hope not.
life?
I'd love to think that I'm going to go through life without being truly heartbroken. I know that's incredibly naive, but I'd like to think that. Pardon? I'm 24. Just 24.
Okay, I'm going to come to Margot. Hopefully she's remembered.
Yeah, hopefully, but I think, you know, I think being with other people doesn't necessarily have to have that kind of outcome of like, and you're forever together forever. You can just almost like recognize what are the bits that you've learned from them, and then they hopefully can recognize, or you can see the good bits that they learned from you, or the things that you've learned together. But you'd be happy for that person to kind of re-enter the world, like they've never left the world, of course, but, you know, kind of go back out there without you, and just know that, you know, you were part of making that person, I don't know, maybe more resilient, more sensitive, or whatever it is, or giving them experiences. But also, so I think it's just about putting kind of things out into the world which don't necessarily give you some kind of like reward or like pat on the back, like, oh, you've done that well, because probably nobody other than yourself and the other person, nobody really knows how much you gave each other and how much you've hurt each other or whatever. So only you know, but you know, but I didn't think that when I was younger. I think it was very much like, you know, oh my fucking God, I've just been left or something like that. But
So it does, the experience of breakup changes as you get older, as you've done it a few times.
So what I wanted to say is with breakups, bitterness and heartbrokenness. So I think, I mean, it's there's one saying, it's like love is what stays after love. So when you just like, when you're in a relationship, you know, you've all the hormones and everything come, but then afterwards, I think what you, and despite all of the heartbreak or whatever, and what you've done to other ones, if you then just like with some sort of distance and some sort of looking back, and then just still have some warm feeling for the person, that's different. So I've got like two examples. So I also understand the bitterness and the wasted time. Just like all of my marriage was a complete waste of time, and I don't think I'm that angry, but I I'm very sad that this has happened, because I wanted it to be nice, because there's more than just two people, like two other babies that came out of them, and two other lives that are completely different because of, you know, the parents couldn't make it work for each other. And then I've got this other experience of somebody that I was together with decades ago, and I'm still, whenever I think of him, or ever when we talk, that I just still feel, I'm not in love with him at all, and don't think of him very often, but when I do, I just think like, this is such a good person, and this was such a love, you know, and I wish him all of the best. So I think this is for me, this is my very true love, because we were together and we were friends for years before, and then we were together, and then we were friends after, and then we lost kind of contact. But that is just, when I think of him,
But
this is
it's
just
more
so
of a warm
warm.
glow than a bitter taste.
Yeah, and some, you know, some people I wouldn't mind if I ever see them again, or if a bus runs over them, so I wouldn't cry.
Well,
I
warm
think
glow or bitter taste.
it's a bit of a, I mean, we've had a similar kind of experience with our ex, my ex-wife. I'm kind of indifferent. I don't have quite that much. I don't really. Certainly at the point, it wasn't mutual. Absolutely
neutral.
Oh, now, now, but previously, no, not remotely neutral. Very, very not neutral. However, I, you know, I've got two kids out of it, and that's a good thing. And I think in your case, your kids are a great thing that you managed to get out of what was, you know, where there's muck, there's brass, right? So there's this, that's that saying, where there's muck, there's brass. Have you heard that saying? Sorry? Dirt, there's brass. There's something shiny. There's something good out of the crap. And I think there's always something you can glean from even terrible experiences and terrible relationships and so on. And you may not see it there. You might not see it for years afterwards, but you'll see it.
It will come eventually.
I think so. I think so. And as I say, you know, I think certainly for a long time, I wasn't indifferent at all. But now I'm very indifferent, couldn't care less. It doesn't make any difference at all, that relationship, but my kids do.
Okay. Jonathan?
For me, it took at least two breakups, two terrible breakups that each lasted like this sensation of breakup and this longing, and about 2 years or something. So it's in each, so it's like 4 years have been like, but then, but the good that came is just this realization that it shouldn't have been this dark. I just needed some support from some professionals.
Right. Okay.
For instance, that's the point. Sometimes I think there is there might be a kind of, you come to the wrong conclusions, or there might be no access, or so
you feel very bleak, but actually it's not that bleak.
There's the good things come out, like when you mature, you understand more about yourself and about others. And you become indifferent towards the warm glow.
Warm glow or bitter taste, or a bit of both?
Both.
Okay. Ian?
Just let's say, where would popular culture be if nobody was ever broken-hearted? How many songs would we have? How many paintings, or how many, I don't know, useless expressions of love would there be? Like, you know, so it's obviously added something. Just to put a little end on one of the stories that I told you earlier about somebody who told me I don't turn them on anymore. Ironically, a year or so later, I went back to university after I'd left to see some old friends, and I met her again. And I ended up going back to her place and just talking. And it was one of the nicest things when it came to relationships is that I actually said to her, you know, I was really lucky to have you in my life for a year or so, you know, and you're such a lovely person. And that, I think that's, although I keep in touch with a lot of people I've been out with, that was a really nice way of rounding it up, because the one thing you can't replace in your life is time.
Yeah.
If you give time to people, if they're in your life for that time, you can't erase it. You can't erase it. You've given it. It's a present that can't be taken back.
Okay, so it's part of you in a way.
Yeah.
Okay, so talking about time, which it's up to you where we want to go with this. You know, there's a few kind of pointers out there. There's the emotional intelligence. There's this question of professional support. Do we need more professional support to deal with these things? There's a question of like the bitter taste, warm glow, indifference. We haven't really talked to Teddy for a while online. I don't know if you've got anything to add. You have? Are you?
Yeah, I'm happy to add. Well, I think a few times I thought throughout this evening when people talked about falling in love or being crazy in love, and whenever I hear that, it feels like there's like not a choice there, that something or somebody is out of control.
Yeah.
And I think it comes back to that self-love thing, and that isn't an act of self-love. To be that madly in love with someone, to be that out of control, ultimately that person becomes put on this pedestal.
Yeah.
Eventually,
Teddy, is love a choice?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Because if it isn't a choice, then I suspect that person could be in a bit of trouble down the line. And things like this, when I hear possession in a relationship, that I find that very, very, yeah. I mean, I don't know if I tried to like exaggerate my facial expressions a couple of times on this to show my displeasure, or I'm very uncomfortable to hear possession. Possession over someone else is not love. In my understanding, it is a dangerous place to go.
Okay. Hopefully that adds to the conversation. Do we want to pick up on any of these points? I think there's a question about, is love a choice? Margot?
I just want to throw it out there. I'd like to find out who are people's celebrity or non-celebrity crushes.
Okay.
Could be politicians or
I'm
something.
going to turn the mirror to you, because you're obviously thinking about this. Do you have a celebrity or non-celebrity crush? Sorry, we've gone this way. This is how Talkaoke works. We'll go whatever way we need to go. Give us a celebrity crush.
I'm quite a little bit undecided about Emmanuel Macron recently.
Emmanuel Macron, okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to go around the table on this one, sorry, but celebrity crush or non-celebrity crush?
Probably won't know the name. Louise Casey, who used to be involved with homelessness in London, and did such a wonderful job that I was totally in awe of her.
Right, okay.
I thought my first crush was Legolas, Orlando Bloom in Lord of the Rings. Yeah, like Legolas in Lord of the Rings, Orlando Bloom.
Is it the character or is it the?
It's the whole thing. It's all of it. The character, the hair. Yeah. The whole thing, and the face.
Did he break your heart?
You could try.
Give it a go.
Yeah, I can't remember.
What's that?
I don't know any celebrities. I can't remember.
But okay, non-celebrity crush.
Not right now.
Not right now. Not today.
Can't decide between Putin or Trump.
Finally, we get to some current affairs. Yeah.
I've always had a thing for Meg Ryan.
Yep.
But
I think Kirsty Walk, when she was younger, president of Newsnight, because I loved her voice, Edinburgh accent or kind of Scottish accent, just kind of oozed intelligence. And the other person, I guess I had loads. But I mean, recently I was thinking Catherine Keener, is it Catherine Keener, the American actress? I just really like her. I mean, I don't know, you might not know her actually. She's not that famous, and her day is gone, you know. So
I'm completely celebrity blind. So
no, well, Catherine Keener, what was she in? That big, nothing particularly big. She was in with Steve Buscemi in a film called Living in Oblivion about filmmaking. She was brilliant in that. She was very young in that. Then later on, she was in. I can't remember now. I mean, honestly, I don't. Look her up. Keener. But you may not recognize her. I just liked her smile.
Catherine Keener.
Yeah.
We're looking her up right now.
Yeah. There we go.
But it's very random because there's loads, millions. I mean,
You used to have a crush on Julian Clary.
Okay.
Julian Clary used to have
Yes,
a crush on, yeah.
Teddy?
I'm thinking films a lot. I'm thinking like true romance. Interestingly, the word romance hasn't come up. We talked about romantic love, but not necessarily romance. But True Romance is a film that probably depicts a modern day love would stand out.
Okay. The whole film, not a particular actor in the film.
Correct. I've purposely not named any actors.
The whole film, you're just going to give us that. That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay. No, I'm not going to. I'm in the middle, so I don't have to answer.
No point of view.
I don't really know, to be honest. No idea. Yeah.
So what I mean, obviously, tried to gear it towards current affairs.
Yeah.
But what I don't want to talk about Ukraine especially, but what I wanted to get opinions about is, that we've got, like, with all of the media happening around, and we've got wars all over, and we've got conflicts all over. And a couple of months ago, Afghanistan was just like the thing. And, we saw women throwing their babies over barbed wire fences, and just like the pure fear and the pure catastrophe that was unfolding. And now nothing happens anymore. And we just like, and I just wondered what people think of at what point it is everybody's responsibility to kind of support one way or the other. What can we do? Shall we bother at all? I mean, what can I do for any sort that is happening now? And just, that's just like what I.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm following Russian media quite extensively, and there's a couple of commentators that were kind of this morning after that Putin announced the war. They came with some announcements or points that everyone should kind of keep calm, kind of remember things that like keep doing what they're doing. Do not kind of
do not lose
do not lose your head.
Yeah,
and that. So basically, this.
So the Russian media is saying, just chill, don't worry about this. We've got this covered.
Sort of, it was a reminder. See how in Georgia happened. It was like it takes a month, and then it's a different focus on a different story.
Yeah, I mean, do you think it's
that Crimea took about 4 years? That it was the longest kind of media theater. That was going on in Russia. I mean, in a Russian media space.
Did you read Putin's speech when it was published, for example, on Al Jazeera's website, where the speech he gave out was quite long, so there's excerpts of it. Even the excerpts was quite long, maybe about 3 A4 sheets, and he lays out the whole reasoning behind, the revolution, the Maidan revolution in Ukraine, 2014 against. Was it Lukashenko? I can't remember. Yanukovych, I think. And the reasons that Ukraine belongs to Russia, and it's really part of bringing about the Soviet Union and against the West and the cheapening of culture. He talked about a lot of things, a lot of issues in his speech. But actually, there's nothing new. There's nothing really. It's stuff that everybody kind of knew anyway. That they thought. When they thought about Putin and
I'm going to ask both of you this question that Tanya asked is like, what should our response to this be? We're here in London, sitting around a glowing table.
Love of man is I think some of the people that were here before talking about that. I use man with a capital M in this old-fashioned way of people, perhaps a universal thing that we cannot quite put again. A finger on. I mean, it can be just something that we sort of say is an inexpressible love that the young man that was there earlier, Ahmed, I think, was saying. Yeah. But perhaps it should be something, or at least that we can sometimes turn into action and turn into something we do, whether it's writing to an MP or whether it's joining a territorial army. I don't know, but It's the sort of actions that we can take.
If you're going to write to MP, what would you say?
Well, you put forward your opinion. At least you take action. At least you put pen to paper and you do something about what you think is happening or what you think your stance is or what you think should happen.
Okay, Tony.
I think in theory, and I think Teddy, is it Teddy? Teddy wanted to say something as well.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, Teddy, go on. Thanks for watching, Teddy.
No, I didn't want to comment on the war. Actually, sorry, I don't know if maybe I was.
What did you want to say?
I don't think I wanted to say anything about the war.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, Ian. Yeah.
Yeah. First of all, I'd like to say, why is Russia the enemy? Again, because Russia, to me, now seems to be more capitalist than a lot of Western countries seem to be. And I don't understand. I mean, it's no longer the communist society it was. I know the guy's a gangster. I know it's a terrible state. But at the same time, we do still have this concept of like the Red Menace. And that's why. Secondly, I kind of associate the fear that Russia may have because over the last 100 years, it's been invaded 3 or 4 times across that area. Of course, I'm being totally heartless now. I'm talking realpolitik here. It also strikes me as a counterpart to the Cuban Missile Crisis, because if Ukraine was to become part of NATO, then America would have missiles on the Russian border. When that happened in Cuba, obviously there was nearly a war then, and they wouldn't tolerate missiles in Mexico if that was the way. Obviously, I'm ignoring the complete humanity of it all, and my heart goes out to the people of Ukraine. I would point out that also that they have a different view on life at times. I'm trying to say that some of them have been. When the Nazis invaded Russia, some of them went over to the Nazi side. But these are all generalizations. I'm not talking about, and again, as I say, my heart goes out to the people of Ukraine who are a sovereign nation and should not be invaded.
I mean, what's your feeling about? Do you feel like you need to do something, like write to your MP? And if so, what would you say? Or is it just something we just observe in the news and just see it happen?
I think I'll go back to something I said before. It's the thing about people that know their history. People that don't know their history are destined to repeat it. People that do know their history are destined to watch other people repeat it.
Okay. Akbar?
So I think that the problem here is that essentially Putin and all of the people at the leaders of Russia have felt after the fall of the Soviet Union that effectively their country was humiliated, and it wasn't supported to be built back. So effectively, the only way they could build it back was through the oligarchy and all of this kind of system, just to try and then build it back as a military power, because it's not an economic power, not even remotely. And it's the problem is because this sense of humiliation, they feel that they have to kind of effectively wave their willies around, right? And should demonstrate their power. They can do this. Right. And I think if they had just had a similar thing to the Marshall Plan or something to build up the former Soviet Union and establish a more equitable society, I think it could have been a great power, but still.
So you don't think Russia is a big power? But what I mean,
I think Russia's a power militarily. There's no doubt about that. But economically, I mean, yes, it's got gas and oil, but ultimately, in 20 years, 30 years' time, that won't be relevant.
But I mean, what about the question of what should it? And I think it wasn't just about Russia; it was also about Afghanistan and all the tragedies happening around the world.
I mean,
what do we do about it? How do we respond? Do we just sit and watch?
I don't think we can do anything. We do have to sit and watch. Really?
Yeah. Okay. Some points on the chat from Teddy. Let me just bring them up. I noticed you as well, Archie, was saying something. Final thought from Teddy. Let's get that, and then we'll go straight to Archie.
I just wanted to thank you all. Thank you for hosting, Mikey. I need to go, and my head's full of love, and that's why it's difficult to switch to war. Although
what happens to love? And they say all's fair in love and war, but I mean,
they do say that. You're right. It might be a nice place to go
between it. But I mean, you're saying you prefer the love conversation.
I'm saying that I can't. I need to bid farewell, but not to do necessarily with the conversation. Not to do. I enjoyed the conversation.
Give us a final thought. It could be about anything that you've heard today, or maybe something that you haven't heard.
Love will always win out. You know, if it comes from a place of love, then I think a lot of things are possible.
Yeah. Okay. Love creates possibilities. We're going to give you a round of applause and a cheer. So thank you, Teddy. Let's go straight to Archie. Thanks for joining today, and hopefully we'll see you soon.
It's also going to be a final thought.
Okay.
I'll love everyone and leave them. But no, I kind of agree with you. I don't think there is anything we can do. I think that whatever we might necessarily feel or want to happen or want to change, I feel like I'm quite cynical about the state of the world, which largely comes from being a socialist and knowing that nothing is ever going to change, and knowing that what I want
aren't socialists
to happen,
optimistic though, aren't they?
I don't feel optimistic.
No.
I feel like capitalism is not going anywhere. I've learned to live in the world that ultimately I don't want to live in, and I am completely powerless to change any of the political or economic systems, let alone anywhere else in the world, in this country. And like, I studied politics at uni. I used to be really engaged in politics. I used to canvass and all these things, and I feel like I've already got to a point in a space of about 6 years where I'm like, there's no point. So I think that whenever things like what's happened today, I'm just completely shut off from it. I don't. And it's not that I don't feel and that I don't care, because I really do. And I resonate with what you're saying about like the actual people. I resonate with that. But this top level, what does Putin want? I don't care. And I don't know. And I don't have the answers. And I accept that I probably will never have the answers. It's kind of how I feel. That came up much more cynical than I wanted it to as a final thought. But
well, thanks for joining. No, I don't think it was, I don't think it was, I think it, it was, it was kind of like a journey. It was, and I think the optimism has got to be tempered with a bit of realism as well. But I mean, there's a lot of questions about
an optimistic thing that sits up there. I have this beautiful world that I think could exist. It just never will. And it's not that I don't care and that I don't want things to happen and I don't want things to change, because I do. I just don't think they will.
Okay. Well, thank you, Archie. Well, hopefully, I'm also an optimist, and hopefully we'll find some in the chinks, as I say, in the broken vase. That's how the light gets in. So there's always these little breaks in the structure which allow the new things to get in. So maybe we'll find them here on this table. Maybe we won't, but at least we're giving it a go. Tanya?
Yeah, but I actually completely agree with you, because I just think, like all of these platitudes are just like, oh yeah, and we can all stand together and we can do this and we can, I mean, no offense, but you're writing to your MP. I've done that a couple of times. I don't think it makes the slightest bit of
What
difference.
did you write to your MP about?
It was about pollution with all of the southern water putting the shit in the sea. So, and then I kept doing it and wrote and wrote. And then it was just like, I voted for this. But it's just like nobody really cares one bit. And I think that's the same. It's just like, and because the media changes so fast and other things we're running after. As I said, Afghanistan sold ads a couple of months ago. now we've had Brexit and COVID, and now we're doing possibly World War III, depending on which newspaper you read about it. So I also feel one way of kind of switching off is just like count your losses and just ignore it and just like hope that it blows over. Because I can't see anything that I could do except getting sleepless nights over it.
Okay, so just sleepless nights. Go on.
I wonder whether that kind of feeling of helplessness has got, or just like, well, we'll just carry. I'm not saying that's what you said, but it just made me think that, you know, we can have that kind of distance, like, well, look, we can't do anything, we can't change it. Whether that feeling comes from being on an isolated island. No, truly, because I had that reflection the other day where, you know, there's so much shit going on. And, you know, as somebody who moved here from Poland and whatever, you know, we had a refugee crisis on the eastern border where my family lives, and stuff like that. You know, that shit just like runs through my head all of the time. And then yet we went on to do a gig in Lancashire. I just remember that moment where we were standing just viewing another venue, and one of the people that we were with, they were saying like, oh, you know, we've got the best curries in, like, Birmingham's got the best curries, you know. Oh yeah, but you should try the curries down here up in Lancashire. They're like really fucking brilliant. And I just thought, I wasn't able to engage with these people about politics, but I really felt like I needed that space to just like relax, to feel like everything's okay. So can you kill the music, please? Because like, that's it. I just needed to feel safe and know there is somewhere in the world that there is no invasion happening, and it's not possible. Poland is on the border with Ukraine and Belarus, and Russia indeed. So for us, I think it's more real, but for my family, it's more real. Maybe Germany as well, because it's, you know, and maybe Latvia. I don't know, but you know, I think that's the kind of attitude that we can afford in this country because we're on the island. That's it. That's my opinion.
Okay, so it's that in a way we're safe on our island. And we can be neutral, we can be, everything will carry on happening, but it's much more real in Poland and maybe in other countries. So
I'm from Latvia, but I think also, for instance, the governments in other countries can only ask for, I don't know, some support. And in Latvia and in Estonia and in Lithuania, there's like we're in NATO, in Poland as well. So there's this support. So what else can you ask?
But I mean, does it feel different for being from a place that's a bit closer to Russia? I mean, you've got a border with Russia.
I mean, I follow this kind of entry of this political commentator and sociologist. Yekaterina Schulman, and she just said it's too early to kind of talk about anything because there's a lot of noise at the moment, and there's not much that we know.
But what about the feeling? I think we're also talking about the feeling. That do you feel? Does it make you lose sleep, or does it make you worried, or does it make you?
I think I'm more in control. I can kind of choose to fall into that or kind of not.
Can you?
So I think that's a really valid point. If it's far away enough, then it doesn't touch you so much. And I think that's why we also have the luxury of, for example, not being so engaged constantly with Syria or with Afghanistan or with, I don't even know what wars are happening in Africa.
Pointing out that we're an island here, so we don't have to really engage with anyone apart from.
Well, I mean, we're making our own problems. I mean, cutting ourselves off. You know, that's the other side of being in an island. So, but no, I think it's physical distance. I think helps you also to relax. I mean, that's why I remember when I was really young, and there were just like the fears of people throwing atomic bombs around, and that was a different fear. Also, you know, even though it's the terrorist attack fear was big, even though it's not that likely, really. But that sort of thing is just like when it touches you, and when you think like, oh, can I take the tube today, or will I have to think of being blown up or something? That's different. So for me, I think that's one of these reasons why I think, yeah, as long as they're staying far east, it's not that I want it, but for me it would be different if it was, as you're saying, if you're in the midst of it, it's a different feeling.
It's a different, but coming from Germany, you don't necessarily feel more threatened.
My mom is absolutely terrified, and friends of mine, they live on that border, their family, so it is super scary. It's terrible. So I mean, obviously there is, but I'm just like thinking, what can you do? If you have some, you know, if you have influence, if you can, whatever, take your family, take friends in a family, you know, if you can actually do something for an individual, then you can do something. But an individual against the state, I think this is a bit hopeless. So I think you need to find ways of where you can actually have a bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a question, I suppose, about power, isn't there, that goes through all of this. And Archie was definitely talking in a way where he felt there was no power that we had as individuals. Ian.
Yeah, I mean, all this smacks to me of the First World War when it started in the Balkans, and people were saying, "Well, this is miles away. This has nothing to do with us whatsoever." When it patently has, you know, we have this attitude of being an island that doesn't count anymore, other than the fact that you can't drive a tank across it quite as easily. You know, the war in the air and missiles and that really takes away the English Channel effect. I have to say that over the last few weeks, when I heard that Russia had withdrawn troops, when there was I felt a sense of relief, a palpable sense of relief, and also one of my earliest memories was I think the Cuban Missile Crisis, in the sense that being very young and was worried about what the adults were worried about. There was a definite absolute gloom. Yeah. It was gloom, and it was like wondering what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah. And yeah, you know, I'm kind of still there.
Okay.
I just wanted to say that what I was talking about, I think my conclusion of that actually is a positive one. I'm just saying that it's an immense privilege and a great thing actually to have a place like Britain, I'd say, which is like free from all these anxieties. So in a way, I really see the value of it now, but I never thought it's going to come from a point of, from a geopolitical point. And I hadn't realized how much that kind of, impacts the way I see the world or interact with the world. And now I really see it. And I just really see how lucky I am being here. That's it.
Okay.
And it's brilliant.
All right, well, that's a good way to put it. Right, Gonzo, see, you've got your hand, Tanya, yeah?
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple of opinions or kind of feelings from my friends, or like one of my friends, he's in Moscow, and his only response to my question, "Oh, is it war?" He was like, "Oh, it's just fucked up." Like he was kind of surprised because till the last moment he believed that it's going to pass over. So nothing's going to happen. I mean, in Russia, yeah, they a lot of like they believe that it's going to de-escalate and everyone's going to go home. Then, for instance, my friends in Latvia, in Riga, my brother said, "Oh, Putin started his career with war and he will finish it with war." So he's quite optimistic about that it might actually kind of end his career as a president. But I'm not that interested in that. And then the third kind of feeling was from a younger generation, and she said, when the refugees coming, wake me up when the refugees are coming. We'll have beds for them.
We'll be ready.
We'll be ready.
Okay. All right, Tanya.
So what I also wonder about why this kind of war is chosen. You know, we've got so much more 21st century ways of infiltrating, of causing damage, of taking money. I'm just like thinking there's so much other stuff that doesn't mean that you need your tanks and your whatever. It's very 20th century, even before, because what do you need with this whole globalization, with the internet, with a connection of all over, with bitcoins, all of these bits. So why so much easier to wreck an economy and then buy up property or buy up land or whatever and take it over, because the money is not, I don't understand it enough of what can be gained from actually moving a border. Does it matter? Does it matter that much? Does this matter so much? If you can go and change politics and just like go and get some privileges other ways, it just seems so much more lucrative and so much more elegant to do other things than just like bombing pieces to pieces.
I wonder if it's a generational thing. I think that to some degree there's the population of the West and Russia is getting older and older and older. There aren't many children or younger people. And the people in charge are these older people that think war is fought with tanks because that's what they remember. They watched the war movies and they watched all of these things. And
they should have been watching the Bollywood love movies instead.
Well, maybe, but the thing is, even despite that, we know that Russia, China, the US, the UK, everybody has intelligence services and systems in place to destabilize countries that don't involve, a shot being fired. And America's done it many times. Russia's done it effectively with Brexit, and so on. And I think this is a generational thing, and at some point they're going to die off.
So you think that we won't have wars in the future?
I just don't see how it is useful. I mean, I can't see Russia deciding, right, we're going to take on Europe or any EU member, because that's not in their interest. Who's going?
They moved in, haven't they?
Well, but Ukraine isn't part of the EU or part of NATO or any of these larger organizations. It's seen almost like a easy picking rather than something that is actually got power. And they haven't. That's the point.
Okay. I'm going to come to Ian and Margot.
Yeah, taking it down to a very base level, I sometimes think how the mechanics of war have not changed, in that it's all about projecting a piece of lead or something at somebody else's body. It almost goes back to like, it's a glorified arrow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's always been the concept of war, literally throwing things at each other, only at a greater pace.
Yeah, with more and more deadly things and faster speeds.
But at the same time, the concept is the same, that you send these, rather than, so the whole concept of war hasn't changed for like 2,000 years.
Is it out of step now with today's global world with Bitcoin?
Well, there was a thing, I forget what the bomb was actually called. It was supposed to be a bomb that was so radioactive that it didn't actually blow up buildings, it just killed people. And and the idea behind that was that you could take over a whole country intact. You just killed the people rather than blow it up. So it's is Russia going to build a Ukraine up? I thought your point about the Marshall Plan was very good, and perhaps that's what they do. Anyway, I'm going.
Okay, is that your final thought? Or give us a final thought? Because we didn't just talk about war and conflict. I
think it's been a lovely conversation in the sense of love and death, which is when it comes to relationships. I based my whole early life on Woody Allen. So if anyone's seen the film Love and Death, which is based on War and Peace, then you'll know where I'm coming from.
Okay, so the big subjects tonight. Thank you, Ian. I think it is time for it is time for final thoughts. So let's just harvest some final thoughts from everyone. Well, that we've still got them. Thank you, Ian, and we'll give you a.
I think I can't remember who said it, either you, Gonzo, or you, Tanya, but something about creating the kind of like news noise kind of constantly coming out, and I think that's what's kind of happening. This is the new war. They, you know.
Excuse me.
Oh my God. I think the new war is like, I think the war is going to be kind of happening in our heads the way, so that sounds a bit cliche and crass, but I think it's just like the not knowing. I think that's just going to like wear us down, because we just don't know, like, you know. And the other thing is that about like, is sending tanks the most efficient way, or is that a little bit outdated? I think when I heard about just like continuous cyber attacks on banks and institutions in Ukraine, just made me realize that it's not just that, it's just like complete destabilization of the country.
So that all the other destabilization.
So no one can draw money out or send a mail.
Yeah. Okay.
Anyway,
is that your final thought?
That's my final thought, yes.
Okay, final thought, Shahid?
I'm not sure. I mean, we've talked quite a length going around the table several times about the Ukraine thing. And I think Tanya was saying, began by talking about how you feel helpless. I mean, there's a difference between feeling helpless and obviously, and not caring, you know. So whether you write to your MP or not, or do this or that, at least, you know, have some feeling or something, you know, because I feel if you don't care, like you kind of feel it's not going to make any difference, therefore I don't care, then in a way that the whole sort of George Orwellian world of these sort of big powers above us and the double speak and all this, they've won. You know, it doesn't make any difference what the ordinary man on the street or the people on the street think at all. You know, so at least, you know, just like a conversation like this opens up conversation. It just opens up something. On the other hand, I can also sort of think a little bit kind of like, oh, maybe we shouldn't care, because we should just relieve ourselves of the burden of thinking about these things, you know, just kind of in some kind of existence, kind of Zen-like state. You know, maybe that's better because we just carry on with our lives. I don't really know.
It might be harder to care about it if there's nothing you can do about it. If you're helpless and caring, that's quite a... it's a bit like maybe falling in love as well, just so that you're two subjects that there's nothing you can do about it, but you care a lot.
Yeah. Could be. Yeah. I mean, I'll say one thing. I mean, if people cared more, there may be endless waves of destruction that can now be sort of plowed onto the earth, nuclear bombs and so on. They might not have come about because people cared enough not to allow them to proliferate and so on. But that's going a bit grand. In fact, going back to...
That's food for thought for the next topic.
And just going to what Akbar was saying, Akbar, I think it's a good point. You know, other people have made it as well, that had post the fall of the Soviet Union, some new sort of alliance between East and West been sort of thought up, rather than just NATO continue expanding and humiliating in a way the Russia, then things might be different right now. You know, so
that is a very good point. Akbar, have you got a final thought?
Yeah, I think I've got quite a lot of faith in the younger generations, and I think that they will eliminate ultimately borders, and hopefully there won't be this need to be, we have to be these people and we have to be these people. We can all live together. Ultimately, also, I think the population will crash in the world and there won't be the necessity for all of this.
Okay.
People will have to move. They'll have to do things together.
Like in the future, Russia invading Ukraine will just be somebody.
Well, Russia's population is declining, and not at the moment. It's kind of grown, but that's because of the kind of nationalism and the promotion of children and things. But they've lifted up their birth rate a tiny bit, but ultimately it's going to die off. Okay, it's not going to stay.
All countries have got a limited lifespan. Tanya, final thought?
Final thoughts is, I think the problem is not that we don't know enough. I think we know too much and too fast. So I've just read this book by Steven Pinker, who is a psychologist, and he's talked about rationality. And what he said is just like the whole anxiety, but it also discusses the anxiety that is just all around, and that, you know, like the older we, or like as time moves on, more mental health issues arise, and anxiety and paranoia and depression, and all of this comes, and everything looks so gloomy. And what he also states is just like certain things, overall, it's going upwards, you know, like world population is coming in how many years, coming to a top, like 10 years, 20 years? And then it goes down. So we're not going to overpopulate the world further. You know, poverty has gone down so much. Child poverty, maybe here in the UK, but overall it's going down, like all of these things. But he said the reason why we don't hear or read about this so much is because it doesn't happen on a Tuesday or a Wednesday, which doesn't sell news. So it's over a long period of time.
Yeah.
So that is just like, I think sometimes, and that's why I'm just also trying to stay away from, though, I mean, I like to be informed, but I just also try not to put that much emphasis on it, because I'm just thinking whatever sells advertising today might not sell it tomorrow. So
in a way,
it might be different.
Instead of a sort of daily news, it should be a decadely news.
That's what he says, in order to kind of see the trends better, because we don't get distracted by all of these clickbaits or news headlines. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So have a good final thought.
So yeah, regards Russia, I think there's like it's a multi-layered problem, but still kind of Putin's and his kind of single parties kind of success or kind of power is dependent on the electorate, which is older people, which are dependent on old media, which requires flashy tanks and rockets and all this kind of old school war type of imagery. And yeah, and I agree. It's old school, and it's used to kind of cater to an older generation that is stuck with old media.
But it's a lot of trouble to go to drive a tank.
I think because
them up just for the sake of
but there's none. We don't know how much is actually blown up, or like there are points of entrance, and anyways, there's too much noise at the moment. So
okay, so it's all about the noise. We've got to somehow rise above the noise. That's it for final thoughts, I suppose.
Do you have any final thoughts?
I don't know, but I mean, you know, my job is really to kind of try and link some of these subjects together. You know, there was a talk about emotional intelligence. There's this question of choice, which I think is quite interesting. You know, it comes down to it, we don't really have a choice when it comes to these geopolitical conflicts. We're just the victims here. So I guess there's somehow something to be drawn, that, you know, some of the conversations about love could be applied to our questions of how we deal with the news that comes through. And I think we've heard a lot of intelligent responses to it, but you know, that I think Shahid's point that being helpless in the face of it is not the same as apathy. I think it's a very good point. And you know, like, how much choice do we have as humans living our lives? We've got a little bit, and I guess we make the best we can with that bit of choice. So that's my final thought. There we go. That's the end of Talkaoke. Thanks everyone for coming. And yeah. This is new music.